TaxAct knows filing your small business taxes can be a nightmare, like the kind where you're being chased by a giant W-2 form and you're running and running, but you can never reach the submit button. Or something like that. So, TaxAct offers Expert Assist with live tax experts to make filing taxes less scary. Now, you can just have pleasant dreams about being chased by other giant, non-threatening paperwork. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
This is the James Golden Show with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Welcome, my friends, to the Saturday Morning Vibe. If you would like to be on the program this morning, 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. 800-848-9222. Yes, my friends, you will hear from the crew. Princess Diana will be here later in the program, as will America's small caffeinated mom, Rhonda Schrock. Looking forward to catching up with Lizzie as well. Carlos, Kelvin, TJ, everybody's here. And there is so much to discuss this morning. If you still want to weigh in on the congressional address, the address to Congress earlier this week, Carlos shaking his head, he's done with it, he's heard everything. It was, Carlos, it was amazing, but you've heard it. But there may be some
It was on Wednesday. I mean, this is Saturday, so...
So get over it, is what you're saying. Done. It was momentous. And the reverberations are still happening, by the way. If there are so many other things that have transpired since then, though, many of them concern elements of foreign policy. And I spoke briefly about this reset that President Trump is doing with Iran. He sent a letter to Khamenei, the leader of Iran, the dictator of Iran, and basically said, hey, talk now while we can. And he's, without making an overt threat, suggesting that the United States is, one way or another, the Iranian situation is going to get resolved. But the biggest upset, there are two areas of upset that are right now still in the news quite a bit. Canada, less so Mexico, and the tariffs. The tariffs, of course, have been delayed. But what is happening in Europe? And what is happening in Europe, my friends, is, to me, incredible. There's a headline today: a Europe in emotional shock grapples with a new era. Europe, jilted, is in shock. We have, apparently, Donald Trump has jilted Europe. He's jilted them. Everything that happens, yes, sir, Carlos.
Jilted? What does jilted mean?
Jilted is like, oh, I'm glad you asked. Jilted is when you have, let's say you have a girlfriend, and you're leading her down the primrose path to tell her that she's the only love of your life, and you guys are really it. The future is here. And then all of a sudden, one day you come in and you tell her, honey, we need to talk. You're out. I've got somebody new. That's jilted. Or when you are getting ready to walk down the aisle with her and you've invested everything that you have in this wonderful relationship, you get your tuxedo, you get all lined up, invite your friends to come watch the show, the marriage show, and right before you're supposed to walk down the aisle, she says, I've changed my mind. Figure it out. You're out. That's jilted. So, So, Europe, jolted, is in shock. The United States, a nation whose core idea is liberty and whose core calling has been the defense of democracy against tyranny, has turned on its ally and instead embraced a brutal autocrat, President Vladimir V. Putin of Russia, gripped by a sense of abandonment, alarmed at the colossal rearmament task before it, astonished by the upending of American ideology, Europe finds itself adrift. The United States was the pillar around which peace was managed, but it has changed allegiance, says Valerie Hay, the president of the centrist Renew Europe group in the European Parliament. Trump mouths the propaganda of Putin. We have entered a new epoch. The emotional impact on Europe is profound. On the long journey from the ruins of 1945 to a prosperous continent, whole and free, America was central. President John F. Kennedy's Ich bin in Berliner. Ich in Berliner. We're all, yeah. In 1963, that was the famous speech Kennedy did in 63, framed the fortitude of West Berlin as an inspiration to freedom seekers everywhere. President Ronald Reagan issued his challenge, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, at the Brandenburg Gate in 1987. European history has also been America's history as a European power. What a strange line. European history has always been America's history as a European power. Very strange, that line. Anyway, now there is Europe, there is Russia, there is China, and there is the United States. The West, as an idea, has been hollowed out. How that vacuum will be filled is unclear, but one obvious candidate is violence, as great powers duke it out. Of course, the almost daily whiplash on the new tariffs have made clear Mr. Trump is impulsive, even if his nationalist and autocratic tendencies are constant. He is transactional. He could change course. In 2017, on a visit to Poland during his first term, he said, I declare today for the world to hear that the West will never, ever be broken. Our values will prevail. The president has since stripped himself of the shackles of such traditional thinking and of the establishment Republican entourage that buttressed it. He appears to be a leader unbound. And yes, he is, thankfully. Thankfully. Folks, this is a very big deal. And in my view, it is long overdue. I cited a column earlier in the week from the Washington Post. It was published on the 6th. Why? That was just 2 days ago. Yes. Spooked by Trump and Putin, Europe rushes to rearm. In this article in the Washington Post, there is a line that just struck me and continues to strike me when I reread it. A military revival in Europe won't be easy or cheap, it says. The 27-nation bloc was not built for Trump's battering ram of decisions, and it is playing catch-up with a more militarized, belligerent world. The EU was built for peacetime, says Nathalie Toki, director of the Rome-based Institute of International Affairs and a former EU foreign policy advisor. There was no need for speed, but rather this kind of slow, careful construction of shared interest and identities and all the rest of it. Folks, let's face facts. Europe is now finding itself, these European nations, spooked, emotionally in shock, because the United States has said what Donald Trump has been saying all along. We are no longer going to be the sucker of the world. No longer the sucker of the world. What does that mean in practical terms? It means the United States has been spending trillions of dollars of defense. And Europe believed that these European nations believed that they were entitled to America's defense capabilities. They believed that American soldiers were theirs. We would protect them with our lives, with American lives. They didn't have to invest in a military. They could pretend that we were all part of the same club through NATO, but they didn't really put any money to it. Instead, as they said, the EU built itself for peacetime. They didn't have to worry about the defense. There was always America to defend them. And so what did they do? They proceeded to run down the path of socialism full steam ahead. It is Europe that has been at the forefront. First, it was the no nuke and protesting the use of nuclear energy. Then it turned into this global hoax on global warming, which now has transformed itself into climate change. And so they pump billions. They put restrictions on everything. They killed freedom. They keep talking about we are for liberty. No, they're not for liberty. They haven't been for liberty in ages. They unleashed the idea that unlawful immigration was a new normal. They invested trillions of dollars in Europe in basically socialist liberal ideology, and the United States, in some cases, followed suit because the Democrats, this liberalism disease that has infected the world does not have is not border required. In other words, it's not just America that suffers from this disease of liberalism. It is a worldwide disease. And Europe went full hog into it. And now, under Donald Trump, we're saying no more. We're not your suckers. We're going to take a quick break. More on this when we get back. James Golden, Snerdley. What do you got lined up here for our first musical selection, Carlos?
On this date, former Dire Straits frontman Mark,
Who?
Knopfler?
Who? What was the name of the group?
Oh my God. Knopfler, I want to say.
Mark Knopfler, yeah.
Okay. Was injured when the Honda motorbike he was riding was involved in a collision with the Fiat Punto car. Oof, that was tough. The 53-year-old singer and guitarist suffered a broken collarbone and 6 broken ribs in the accident, which happened in London's Belgravia?
It's Belgravia, the Belgravia
district in the mid-morning traffic.
Yeah. What was the name of the group again he was with there?
Dire Straits.
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. Mm-hmm. James Golden, Snerdley. Saturday Morning Vibe, 800-848-9222. Keep it right here.
Way on down south. Way on down south. London town.
This is the James Golden Show. James Golden Show. 4 words that mean business with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Donald Trump could personally save me from a burning house on a sinking ship, put me on his back, swim me across the ocean to a deserted island, survive for us until we're rescued, and then get home and give me $1 million, and I would still turn around and kick him in the nuts.
The TDS. And Jasmine is out there too. We'll have some Jasmine later on for you. Birthday today, heavenly birthday. Randy Meisner. Started out with Poco. Founding member of the Eagles, 1977, of course. This was their big one, went number 1. Went back, had a solo career. Successful solo career. Passed away July of 2023. 77 years old. Heavenly birthday. Great American musician. Randy Meisner. Songwriter as well. I'm still going through this article. President Emmanuel Macron of France has declared this week that Europe faced the continent irreversible changes from America. Massive shared finance for rapid European military enforcement needs to be, they're working on that. The alliance is at a very painful stretching point, but I wouldn't call it a breaking point, at least not yet, says Zinnia Wickett, a London-based consultant. Look, folks, this realignment that Donald Trump is doing has been necessary. Europe has some very strict tariffs on America. We're not allowed to compete in their markets, but yet we're supposed to defend them. Europe has marched down this path of endless socialism, as I talked about, promoting this idea that we have to. What was the Paris Accords? The Paris Accords was, let's stick it to America to fund our socialist agenda over climate change. Let's stick it to America again. And Barack Obama, then Joe Biden, went into it. And they actually did it in a way that I never understood, and I still don't understand why Republicans didn't rush off to the Supreme Court and demand that the Senate get involved, because this was a treaty. And constitutionally, the Senate is supposed to give its okay on all treaties that are signed by the United States. But they just said, it's not a treaty, it's an agreement. What? And Republicans played dead while this country was marched over again. Donald Trump got us out. Joe Biden put us back in. Donald Trump has said no again. The United States has been taken advantage of by just about, and this is not whining. It is a fact. Economically, we have been the punching bag of the world. Canada, the restrictions on American goods flowing into Canada, whether it's the dairy market, which they have us locked out of pretty much. In fact, I was listening to a Canadian talk about how they throw away, they get rid of, if they have an overabundance of milk, they get rid of it. They throw it down the drain rather than sell it in America at a decent price. We have been, as a nation, taken advantage of by every European power and their colonies, such as Canada really is to England. Donald Trump is standing up and saying no more. We are not going to be taken advantage of, not by Europeans, not by Chinese, not by any other nation. This is what America First looks like. And yes, it is causing upset. But that upset, folks, is long overdue. Snerdley, don't go away. Keep right here.
The James Golden Show. It's politics, but theater of the mind with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
I cannot tell you how refreshing it was to wake up this morning and hear from other Democrats and see on my post other Democrats who are just as furious and ready to friggin' jump ship as I am. I'm not buying into what they're selling, because after what we saw yesterday, I'm actually glad that they pulled that yesterday, because people like me who have been disillusioned by the Democratic Party for a long time got to see an evilness there, got to see a diabolical side of the Democratic Party who's basically saying, we want you to fail. We don't care if you fail. It's like the scene in The Wizard of Oz when they finally go back to see the great Oz and they pull the curtain back and it's just a little old man just standing there like that doesn't have a f***ing clue. I'm not going to be afraid to voice my opinion anymore. I'm done. I am done. And you're not going to bully me off my own page by thinking logical thoughts. I'm not going to be gaslit by my own party. Not one day more. Not one day more.
Yeah, that addressed the Congress. Democrats really did show themselves. Now you have long-time believers in the Democrat Party saying no. A birthday today, Michael Dolenz, singer and drummer with the Monkees, 1967, of course. This went to number one in the United States of America. He's now an actor, television director, radio personality, and theater director. James Golden, Snerdley, with you here, Saturday Morning Vibe. We're going to get to some calls soon. This shakeup in Europe, folks, forgive me if you've heard me say it already, and I need to say this one more time. For those of you that weren't here during the week, what we have seen in Donald Trump, many Republicans have never, ever seen in their lifetime. That is a president that is completely on offense. Every single American president that has been a Republican since Dwight D. Eisenhower left the White House, every single Republican president has been on defense. One of them succeeded wildly in spite of it because he went over the heads of the mainstream press, one of the main organs of liberals in this country. That was Ronald Reagan. But still, his presidency was under a constant barrage of playing defense. The Iran-Contra with Reagan. I'm talking about stuff that most kids don't even know anything about. The idea that Reagan was an amiable dunce, that he was out of his league, that he was not capable of the job. You compare Reagan to Joe Biden, and it's just laughable. But even Ronald Reagan, the most successful Republican president until Donald Trump. You look at every Republican president, go down the list. Okay? So after Dwight D. Eisenhower, the United States, elected John Kennedy. Kennedy assassinated. We got Lyndon Johnson. After Lyndon Johnson, we got Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon's life can be defined as being on defense from the mainstream press and from liberals. And he was a successful president to a degree. Some of his domestic policies were frankly quite awful. And I'm a big Nixon fan, but I'm also objective enough to say, he was brilliant, but flawed. So after Watergate, the fiasco of Watergate, where the mainstream press flexed their muscles and got thrown out an American president, thank you, Washington Post, among others. That was the age of Woodward and Bernstein. So after that, what did we get? We got Gerald Ford, who quickly came and went. They got rid of him, always on the defensive from day one, from the day he pardoned Richard Nixon. We get to Jimma. We got Jimma. I will not lie to you. Jimmy Carter. JC. The man that Democrats during the Carter election were quietly suggesting that JC was the equivalent of having the biblical JC. That was the quiet message that they were sending during the Carter election. He was JC, going to save America. So we had Jimmy Carter. Then after that disastrous presidency, we had Ronald Reagan, who was extremely successful, but again, on the defensive. After Reagan, Bush 41. Ha! One term, they drove him out, and he helped them with always on the defensive, and he buckled. He buckled to them and broke his own pledge not to inflict new taxes on the American people. Read my lips, no new taxes. Democrat barrage, buckles, there will be new taxes by Bush 41. After Bush 41, Bill Clinton, and that is when the weaponization and the deep state grew in earnest. The deep state has always been there, the establishment. But under Bill and Hillary Clinton, they institutionalized the deep state with help, by the way, from academia. You have, then remember, the Kennedy School of Government up at Harvard, and you have all the Ivy Leagues. They prepared a generation of liberals to insert themselves into government, and they are still there, and Donald Trump is rooting them out. Finally, it is a beautiful thing to watch. After we had that, then we get, after the 2 terms of Bill Clinton, which so much happened in that we are still feeling the reverberations from, we get Bush 43. War on Terror happens. Bush 43 has a 90 at 1 percent approval rating. Democrats, I remember this like it was yesterday, said we have got to destroy him and make him a liar. And they spent the entire mainstream media went into a frenzy, and that's when you got, there were no mass weapons of destruction there, which, by the way, is bull. And that turned into Bush lies about everything. George Bush, 43, didn't defend himself. This was an administration that did not believe in duking it out with liberals. They wanted to do a lot of things, like privatize Social Security, which would have been a great idea and actually have benefited especially minority populations by putting them in charge of their own wealth. But that was miscast in the mainstream press, of course, like everything else they do, as being racist. He's going to hurt black people. They're going to do this, that, and the other. Then you had Hurricane Katrina. That turned into another exercise on racism. He's a racist. I remember Kanye West out there. Bush doesn't care about black people. They amplify that all over the place. That was their whole tone. He's a racist. He's a scumbag. And that was the Bush 43. Always on the defensive. In many instances, they refused to even defend themselves from the garbage that the left was throwing at them. It was infuriating. And they gave up on the culture war. They didn't want to fight at all on the culture war. Let's just focus on the war on terror and let all that other stuff go away. It'll take care of itself. It never takes care of itself with liberalism. So what happens after Bush 43? We get Obama. We didn't get Obama once, we got Obama twice. And the criticism that we, the right, put up against Obama, nothing. Dismissed by the press. Obama could do no wrong. And under Obama, you had a further deepening of the deep state that Bill Clinton put in place. And by then, they knew how to weaponize this government. These millions, literally, of bureaucrats that are now the federal government. Many of them, I don't have numbers, but many of them are institutional leftists. And they use the power of the government against Republicans. So now you have Donald Trump. Comes in for one term, and his first term was marked by being on the defense the entire term with the Russia hoax, with all of the stuff. After they drove him out, they wanted to make sure he could never come back again, so you saw this relentless lawfare campaign. Second term, Donald Trump, after Joe Biden's term, this miserable one-term Joe Biden. Now Trump is back, and Donald Trump is taking no prisoners. This is a complete offense. And I am here to tell you, we went through that history. Republicans have never, ever in their lives seen what it looks like when you have a Republican president fighting on all cylinders for them. He is taking to Europe to task for their kicking around the United States as we're the muscle of the EU, and what we get in return is disrespected when it comes to trade, talked down to always by their politicians as if we're some intellectual inferiors of them, while they muzzle their own people now on social media, and you talk about weaponizing the government against the population. That is what Europe has done against anything that sounds conservative. Okay, so you have Donald Trump taking apart this one-sided relationship with Europe. He's dealing with Canada and Mexico, your allies. Really? They haven't been trading fair with us. Mexico led an invasion against us, pretty much by allowing illegal immigrants to pour through from the South American continent through their country, with help, by the way, from the UN and other NGOs, which is another story. And Canada has been mistreating us when it comes to trade for decades. But it's okay, they're our neighbors. Donald Trump says no more. We're not doing that. At the same time, he's dismantling this deep state, brick by brick. And the woe is me. In fact, I have a story today. Multi-state lawsuit seeks to reverse Trump administration purge of federal workers. 20 Democrat attorneys general have sued the Trump administration in federal court for firing people in nearly 24 agencies. This is not the business of state governments. This is a federal government matter. But you know what they're also protecting? They're also protecting, at least in the case of Maryland and Virginia, what they see is their economic base, because they got so many bureaucrats loaded up in that state that they're worried. My friends, Donald Trump is dismantling the entire paradigm of liberalism. And he's not being quiet about the culture wars. He is going full throttle offense into the culture wars, and that was on display with this address at Congress. And Republicans have never seen this before. He is unstoppable. He's using the power of the presidency. He's not timid. He's not on defensive. He doesn't care what names you call him. He's not trying to appease them. He's not trying to be friends with the Democrats in Congress. He looks them in the eye and calls them lunatics. You people with your lunatic policies. Dead at them, to their face. Reverses their policies. Full steam ahead. America has never seen what Trump is delivering. The world has never seen a Republican president on 100% offense that does not care about their whining, their temper tantrums, their name calling, their ad hominem attacks, and their relentless legal challenges. He's full steam ahead. And this is not just the United States and liberalism here. Donald Trump is actually taking apart the infrastructure of liberalism, from the economic games that they've been playing by using government to fund their own ideology with taxpayer money, ideology that most of the people in this country are opposed to. He's taking it all apart. And so, yes, it is a little bit chaotic right now, but it is a beautiful chaos. I am here to tell you. James Golden, Snerdley, we're going to take some calls. We have all these great sound bites, and I'm not even getting to any of them. Yeah, it's 3 Dog Night. Yeah, thank you. And why are we playing 3 Dog Night, Carlos? He's trying to figure it out.
Mike Alsop?
Yeah.
Okay, it's his birthday. He was born today. Guitar.
Well, that's enough. That's why we're playing it, because he's with 3 Dog Night. It's his birthday, so we're playing it. Thank you. We'll be back. Your call's coming up. Thank you, Carlos.
The James Golden Show. The James Golden Show. It's politics, but theater of the mind with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Tomorrow is the birthday of Carol Bayer Sager, amazing songwriter. She wrote this one. It's been done by many artists, but I think the defining version of this is the one you're listening to from Phil Collins. Her songs, Frank Sinatra, Gene Pitney, Dolly Parton, many of others have recorded their songs. Burt Bacharach, 1982, married Carol Bayer Sager. They split up in 1991. I guess it worked. Anyway, great songwriter. Happy birthday, Carol Bayer Sager. Amazing songwriter. I saw a video just before the show, too, of Phil Collins walking. They had set up his old drum set, walking to his drum set with a cane. He sits behind it for a few moments, hits maybe 2 or 3 of the toms. He says, okay, that's enough. You know, his health is poor health. What's this? I just saw a text from John Katsimatidis come in, Exclusive, woke New York City judges are cutting dangerous perps loose in record numbers. It's in today's New York Post at alarming rates. Oh, man, we're going to have to dig into that. First, let's do this. I'm going to read that during the break.
James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley, presents Rapid Phones.
Let's go to Florida and check in with Richard. Richard, how are you?
Good morning, Mr. Bo. Listen, the Europeans, they're a bunch of cowards, okay? We fought with them, bailed them out during the World War Nazi regime, okay? The problem with the Europeans is they got so used to Biden, give them unlimited funds, sending $1 trillion to them, and they know that piggy bank is no longer there for them, okay? Regarding Putin, let me tell you something. Trump is negotiating with the most strongest nation in the world, Russia, okay? And
well, let me push back on you gently on that, my friend. China is much more of a threat to the world in terms of their armaments right now and to the United States than Russia is. Now, I'm not saying that Russia is not a huge power to deal with. They are a huge power in the world, but China is even a bigger threat to us than Russia. So he's going there. Now, as for calling the Europeans cowards, I used to refer to the French as the surrender monkeys. I don't do that anymore because I'm trying to be a nicer person. But in World War II, they did. Look, if it wasn't for the United States, the entire European continent would be speaking German right now. So we know that. But at the same time, if you look at the heroic efforts of many of the individuals who fought in World War II, these guys were not slouches either. They were overwhelmed by the German forces because they refused to rearm. They refused to take Germany seriously. There's a whole lesson involved in that. So I'm just saying in a nice way, I wouldn't go so far as to call the entire European Union a bunch of cowards. I don't think that that's the case. But I hear exactly what you're saying, and I understand why you're saying it. And they have depended on the United States for everything, for their own defense for too long. Thank you, Richard. Let's go up to Boston, and catch in with Kevin. Kevin, how are you this morning?
I'm doing all right, and I just want to say your in-length monologue came from a golden mic, informing people what they should know. I mean, for the late Rush Limbaugh, it was instrumental, I would say, in my life over his microphone, and you 20-plus years with him.
Wow. Kevin, I have to thank you. I hear the music, which means we got to beg off for this hour. Lizzie Radabali is going to be with us. I have a little surprise for Lizzie. I have a question for our dear Lizzie. Can't wait. Yes. So our number uno is in the can. Our number duo is coming up shortly. Lizzie Radabali will be here, Red Apple's media anchor supremo. Later in the program, our very own Princess Di, our very own America's Small Caffeinated Mom, Rhonda Schraub. Whatever you do, keep it right here. Do not go away. Our number duo coming straight ahead.
This is the James Golden Show with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Welcome, my friends. Our number duo underway here, Saturday Morning Vibe. If you would like to be part of the program today, 800-848-9222 is how you reach us, 800-848-9222. Looking very much forward to speaking with you on the telephones. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time, the moment has arrived for Red Apple Media's news anchor supremo, Lizzie Radabali, who is not only up on all the current trends, well, most of them. I have one trend for her today. But also the advocate for the downtrodden, oppressed workers of America. Our very own Lizzie. Good morning, Lizzie.
Good morning, Bo. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. How about you?
Fantastic, fantastic. No complaints.
Good. You know, I saw your story that you have this morning about scientists wanting to bring back the woolly mammoth, and they've been fooling around with DNA structures and everything else to create a woolly mice. I saw the story this week. I saw the picture of that mouse with not fur. It's this woolly stuff. It's
like
completely
got a great head of hair, that mouse.
Yeah, it's absurd, but it's real.
It is real.
These people never get tired of fooling around with things they shouldn't be fooling around with.
I know. It's like nobody learned anything from Jurassic Park. I mean, if something is extinct and dead, long dead, why bring it back? I just don't really understand this. They say it's like to study the future, like the possible future extinctions of other animals, but I don't know like what bringing back an extinct animal is going to tell them about animals.
Well, it's not even that they've created they've come up with something new. There weren't woolly mouses around.
No.
This is obscene.
They're playing mad scientist. They're playing God,
right.
Basically. They're actually playing God because they actually wanted to take Asian elephants and modify the DNA of the elephants to bring back the woolly mammoths. But before they get started on the elephant genome, those are big animals and they're not really experimented on a lot. And also notably, a lot of countries have very strict protections of Asian elephants. Like, you can't even have a lot of like animal sanctuaries in some places for elephants that aren't, abide by certain standards. But so yeah, they're now in the midway point. They're looking to mice.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Lizzie, you usually bring us trends. What's happening in the world of TikTok? What's happening in the world of all the social media thing?
Yeah.
And we love that you do that. It helps us keep up to date on the trends. But I wonder, Lizzie, if you are aware of a trend that is beginning to happen across parts of America, the trad wife trend.
Oh yeah, no, I'm very familiar with it. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, you say.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Well, briefly, in your own words, just describe for us what a trad wife is, please, Lizzie.
A trad wife is a delusional person who thinks that. What was that?
No.
What?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I did ask you in your own words.
Oh yeah, exactly. In my own words, I'm gonna just start off and call them delusional. And they think that it's, we're going to return to some time where women are the homemakers and men are the workers. And as a working woman right now, on International Women's Day, mind you, I think...
Is that what today is?
It is. Yes. Check your calendars. What? Check your calendars. Give a woman in the street $5. It is International Women's Day. Yeah. Why not?
Wait a minute. Why is that? Wait a minute. You just got through talking about independent women, and then you're saying give them money?
Yeah.
How does that work?
The tax for being a woman in this country. I think we deserve it.
Okay, Lizzie, I just want to get your reaction to something that I saw.
Yep.
From your grandparents' age.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I just like to get your reaction for it. And by the way, Lady Benedict, you too. So without any further ado, this is just kind of, you talked about a return to the past. This is from, I believe, the 1950s. But here it is, Lizzie.
Your goal is to try to make sure your home is a place of peace, order, and tranquility, where your husband can renew himself in body and spirit. Prepare yourself. Take 15 minutes to rest so you'll be refreshed when he arrives. Touch up your makeup. Put something decorative in your hair, like a ribbon or a flower. Be happy to see him. Greet him with a warm smile and show sincerity in your desire to please him. Speak in a low, soothing, and pleasant voice. Make the evening his. Never complain if he comes home late or goes out to dinner without you. Instead, try to understand his world of strain and pressure and his need to relax. Don't ask questions about his actions or question his judgment or integrity. Remember, he is the master of the house, and as such will always exercise his will with fairness and truthfulness. You have no right to question him. Listen to him. You may have a dozen important things to tell him, but the moment of his arrival is not the time. Let him talk first. Remember, his topics of conversation are more important than yours. Remember, a good wife always knows her place.
Boo.
Well, I'm sorry.
Boo. That's my reaction. Boo. Tomatoes, throwing tomatoes at the screen. Tomato, tomato. Boo. Get him off the stage. Get him off the stage. That's ridiculous. I mean, a man has to talk first. Are you kidding me?
Lizzie.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man.
Lizzie.
Jeez Louise.
Lizzie.
Bo.
The point was, Lizzie, that to have a harmonious household is a joint undertaking. And there shouldn't be a battle of egos. That's really the underlying point.
So the woman just has to submit herself completely. I love that. I love that idea. That, you know, in order to maintain
Did you use
peace,
the S word? Did you use the S word?
Submit? Yeah. It seems like that's exactly what that video was, a tutorial on how to do. It was literally bar for bar a tutorial on how to make yourself smaller, how to make yourself a little loser, so that this man can trample.
You say.
Yeah, so this man can trample all over you and tell you, go here, put this in your ear, do this, do that, say, wait for me to speak. I don't care. I would punch that man in the face, honestly. If I saw him in person, that man who did that voiceover, I want to beat him up. I don't care if it's from the 50s. I'm going to be the first woman to invent time travel, make history for women across the world, just to go back in time and beat that guy up. Beat that guy black and blue. Because, wow, I deserve compensation for having to hear that. Jeez, that's what I'm talking about. That's where that $5 comes in. That's where that $5 is coming in. I need Venmo, Zelle, Cash App.
Lizzie.
Yeah.
Lizzie, are you going to deny that perhaps in the past there was a little bit more peace in the household than there are?
I will deny that. Women were getting lobotomies to be sane. They were getting ice picks stuck in their brains so that they could, go through the day. No, that's not peaceful to me. That's not peaceful at all.
Lizzie, how about the...
Lizzie, I just don't care. I just don't care about the idea that the working woman is more like that Phyllis Schlafly talking point that now the woman has double the work. I mean, in some sense of the word, yeah, because the man hasn't picked up the slack.
Excuse me?
Yeah, excuse you. The men don't help out at home. If you want to talk about harmonious home, what about, how instead of going back to when women were the sole homemakers, that's not going to happen. Women represent more than half of the workforce now. More women are employed, than men. So that's just not going to happen. That whole reversal. Women are responsible for crucial labor, not just in manufacturing. They stepped up during the World War.
Of course they did.
We're never going to go, and we're never going to go back to when women are just stuck in the house all day. First of all, that's miserable. Second of all,
wait a minute. What is wrong and miserable about being in the house, rearing your children, the children that you and this man that you love created together, and providing a stable, warm, loving household for your offspring? What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that is, like I said, when these women go stir crazy and then the opposite of peace happens. I mean, cabin fever is real. You're not going to just sit at home all day doing laundry for 8 hours. I mean, your mind wanders.
Is that all there is, Lizzie? How about the time you spend bonding and teaching your child?
They're at school 8 hours a day. They're
not when they're first born, Lizzie. We don't throw them in school right out of the birth canal.
I mean, then what are they supposed to do though when the kid grows up? Like, what happens when the kid is school age? They're sitting at home for hours on end.
Then when the child is in school, you can work part-time. Hang out with the other moms.
I don't know. Have you met other stay-at-home moms? I wouldn't hang out with them personally. I would not. Let alone be one. I wouldn't want to hang out with one, honestly. Not much going on. They're boring because they don't have anything going on. They just have to talk about their kids. Like, my God, what? How are you living vicariously through your children who are just, not doing anything really? Meanwhile, you could be a career woman, making deals, making history.
Being lonely.
But no, who cares? Who cares about loneliness?
Who cares? I hear cats in that future. I hear cats in that future, Lizzie.
I'm fine. I mean, I'm coupled up. I'll be fine. So I'm not lonely. I'm actually, I'm more than satisfied in that department. So I'm not gonna be, I'm not gonna be one of those crazy cat ladies. But more power to them.
The cat ladies are crazy.
More power to them.
Well, I just wanted to get your take on it, and I'm glad we.
Yeah,
so
Trad-wise,
you would go back and invent a time machine so you could go back in time.
Yeah,
and
beat the living daylights out of that guy. Seriously, what a loser! What a loser! Put something in your hair. How about I put something in your hair? My fist. Give him.
Lizzie. As always, Lizzie, such a pleasure, my dear.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Bo. And also, yes, Zelle, Venmo, Cash App, I am accepting, women tax all day for International Women's Day. Find me on social media. Thank you.
And happy International Women's Day to you, my Lizzie.
And to all the women in the world, more power to you.
Thank you. Women of the world unite. Oh, Lizzie.
Yeah?
Lizzie, before you go.
What's up?
Have you ever heard this song before?
No, I'm actually Gen Z. So.
I'm actually Gen Z. Well, let me introduce it to you. Her name was Little Peggy March. This song sold 1 million copies in 1963.
Wait, but I'm sorry. Is poor Peggy, she's singing. Isn't that a job?
Yes, but it's okay because you know what she's singing?
Career.
You know what she's singing, Lizzie? I will follow him.
I'd like to look at her Wikipedia and check that out. Let's see how she turned out.
Okay, thank you, Lizzie.
Thank you, Bo.
Birthday today, Little Peggy March. 1963, this one. I will follow him.
This is the James Golden Show. James Golden Show. 4 words that mean business with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Tomorrow is the anniversary, ladies and gentlemen, when Christopher Wallace was gunned down after he left the party at the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. Notorious B.I.G. 24 years old. That happened in 1997. Hey, Kelvin, did you listen to Notorious B.I.G. when you were a kid?
I was 2 when this song came out, but growing up, yeah.
Oh, okay. My goodness. You were 2 when this came out?
Yes.
Wow. How about you, Carlos, over in Greece? Was this a big hit?
Maybe. I don't know. I started listening to him when I came to the States, so like 2014.
Oh, okay. Notorious B.I.G. James Golden and Snerdley with you, Saturday Morning Vibe. Let's head to the telephones. Liz in Suffolk County, you are up next. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you, Mr. Golden.
What is on your mind this morning, Liz? Mm-hmm.
Well, two things. First, I want to thank you for your synopsis of recent political history. It was the most succinct. I think it should be transcribed and put into every school book. My other comment was, yes, I really appreciated it. My other comment about Ms. Rizabali, she is Gen Z, and she does not understand what transpired with women all before that. Women became very good spies. They learned how to surreptitiously control the household and motivate their husbands into doing what they wanted by being sweet and nice and feeding them all the right things and managing the household, but whispering in their ear. How many men, people like Thomas Edison and others, have grown up with women nurturing them, pushing them into doing great things? Wives of presidents and premiers of countries. She does not understand that because she's Gen Z and all she sees is the result of it. While I don't agree with women being covert and surreptitious, it happened and it worked.
So, women were not oppressed, you're saying. They were not this under the foot of man and just treated like they were some chattel. That was a different sort of relationship. That's what I'm hearing from you. Am I correct, Liz?
Well, they were, but women knew how to control it and how to work it.
Okay, so they were oppressed to a degree, but women knew how to control the house and to control their men.
Absolutely. And their children.
Do you think that today's relationship, as you look on the younger generations and their relationships with men, we're running out of time. Let me just ask you quickly. Do you think that there is any hope for a more harmonious relationships?
Yes, if women just stopped being afraid of who they are. There's nothing wrong with being in business, but I work in a very professional atmosphere in a large law firm, and I hear women lawyers screeching at the top of their voice because they're afraid they're not going to be heard.
Wow, thank you. That's what we have time for. Love the call, Liz. Thank you. The Saturday Morning Vibe continues with you. Don't go away.
The James Golden Show. It's politics, but theater of the mind with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley. Now, it's time for Protecting Your Future, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Here's James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
And my friends, this week, Protecting Your Future takes a look at a presidential action that took place 2 days ago. A mere 2 days ago, the White House denounced the establishment of their strategic Bitcoin reserve and the United States digital asset stockpile. by authority vested in me as president by the Constitution Donald Trump wrote and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered that Bitcoin is the original cryptocurrency. The Bitcoin protocol permanently caps the total supply at Bitcoin at 21 million coins, has never been hacked. As a result of its scarcity and security, Bitcoin is often referred to as digital gold. Because there's a fixed supply of Bitcoin, there's a strategic advantage to being among the first nations to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So the United States government now has a reserve of Bitcoins. By the way, some of that Bitcoin comes from seized assets. Seized assets, when they're forfeited as part of a criminal or civil asset forfeiture proceeding, or as part of a civil monetary penalty that's happened in court. But they've also, under this order from President Trump, set up the United States Digital Asset Stockpile. So what does all this mean for you and your future? It means that if you're in Bitcoin now, the government has put a sort of stamp of approval recognizing that Bitcoin, the original Bitcoin, hasn't been hacked. The United States is having some in reserve of its assets. This other digital currency is a little bit harder, I think, to understand. There are a gazillion coins out there now. Not all of them are safe. Not all. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I was talking with Paul Stone about a crypto hack that took a lot of money. So a word to the wise in protecting your future. Bitcoin may be the most stable. There is a limited supply. It is a fixed supply. A lot of these other digital currencies that are coming out are not as stable. And I'm not saying that I'm opposed to them. In fact, truth be known, I have about, I put maybe $100 or something way back when in Ethereum just to see what it would look like. Because Ethereum is based on a software. And the application of that digital software is what is the underlying collateral for the coin. And I don't want to get into too much detail with that, but I didn't invest anything serious in it. Folks, this is still protecting your future. If you know what you're doing and you have done the research in this and you totally understand what it is you're dealing with, by all means, have at it. If that's what you think. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm just saying, for me, as I look at this world of exploding digital currencies, I still err on the side of caution. If you don't know what you're doing with it, or you don't fully understand it, and believe me, it takes a while before you really understand the dynamics of some of this stuff. And I'm not claiming I understand it totally because I can't spend that much time with it. I have a friend, this is all he does. He's wrapped up in digital currency markets. He's to the point now he's predicting what's going to happen here. He's predicting what's going to happen there. There are other people that have done quite well with it. People have made fortunes at it. But people have also lost their shirts. In fact, Paul was telling us a few weeks ago that he and his wife put some money into it, and because of the way that it is structured, they can't figure out how to get the money out of it. This is new. This is still an emerging currency market. And it takes a lot. So my advice on protecting your future, the only advice I can offer in it that I feel comfortable offering is to protect your future. Even though now the United States government, by presidential order, a strategic Bitcoin reserve and a United States digital asset stockpile, my advice, be careful. If you're going to put your toe or your hard-earned money digitally. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying be careful. Be very careful and understand what it is that you are doing in order to protect your future. Let's head back to the telephones And let's check in with Sandra in New Jersey. How are you?
Oh, good morning, James. I hope you're doing well. James, I'm glad. I was listening to you early this morning, and you were speaking very passionately about the Democrats and how they use many, many tactics all the time. So when I heard this last night, I said, whoa. And what I heard that Al Green had the nerve to point a finger at Mike Johnson, saying that he was asked to leave because of his skin color. That is a lot of nerve.
Let us see, Sandra. Could this be what you heard?
There is invidious discrimination in the House of Representatives. I'm a son of the segregated South. The rights that the Constitution recognized for me, my friends and neighbors denied. I had to sit in the back of the bus, the balcony of the movie, drink from a colored water fountain, and my relatives who committed some crimes were locked up in the bottom of the jail. I know what invidious discrimination looks like. The Klan burned a cross in my yard. I know what it smells like. I was in filthy waiting rooms, and I've been in places where I didn't want to be, and I know what it sounds like. I've been called all kinds of ugly names. So I know invidious discrimination. And when the speaker decided that I would be removed, and then there was this motion, this resolution to censure me, it became obvious to me that I was not being treated as others were. Mm-hmm. And candidly speaking, it is invidious discrimination, harmful discrimination.
That's what you're referring to, Sandra?
James, you hit it on the nose. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that a lot of nerve? He acted inappropriately, whether you're red, white, or blue. You act like he did, waving his cane and shouting out when the president is there to speak. Anyone is going to be asked to leave. So that was a tactic, and that's an example of what I think you spoke about in the first hour.
Well, Sandra, I have a little something for you that you may not have heard. Right after Al Green pulled his antics, he was questioned by reporters, and not many people are playing this. After he came out and said, oh, the treatment of me is racist. I went through the segment. And look, by the way, I'm not mocking the things that he said that he went through. It might surprise you to learn that when I was a youngin', my parents used to take me to Alabama, my mama, anyway, in the summertime, so I could spend time with me and my brothers and sisters, so we could spend time with our grandparents and our family there in Alabama. My mother was born in Alabama. And when I was a young child going to Alabama, the vestiges of some of that were still around. I remember going to the movie theater. This town that we lived in, Lionville, Alabama, had one little movie theater on Main Street, and we had to sit in the balcony. Black people weren't allowed to sit wherever they wanted to sit back then. So some of these things that Al Green is talking about, he's old enough. He probably, I'm not saying he's a liar or experiencing them. Our family, my mother would tell us when we were coming up of tales of lynchings that happened. And this was part of American history. By the way, the Democrat Party ran things in the South, America's South, the party of racism. The Democrat Party responsible for hosing down black people who wanted their rights. That good old governor, segregation now, segregation forever. The Democrat Party, George Wallace. Yeah, them Democrats like old Lester Maddox in Georgia, Democrat. Yeah, Democrat like Bill Clinton's mentor, Fulbright, who there are still scholarships after. All these Democrats were heavily invested in oppressing black people. And they still are. They just take a different guise now. But anyway, so I'm not denying that those things have happened, and I'm not mocking them. However, I just would like to say this about Representative Green. Shortly after he pulled his antics, waving his cane, standing up on the floor, reporters caught up with him. And they're not playing this on the mainstream press. They are playing Al Green complaining about it being racist. But this was his first reaction.
I'm willing to suffer whatever punishment is available to me. I didn't say to anyone, don't punish me. I've said I'll accept the punishment, but it's worth it to let people know that there are some of us who are going to stand up against this president's desire to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security.
So were you saying you have no mandate? Is that what you told him?
That's what he has no mandate to cut Medicaid. None.
Is the only punishment that you were kicked out, sir? Is there something?
I don't know. Whatever the punishment is, I'm not fighting the punishment. This is about the people who are being punished by virtue of losing their health care. This is the richest country in the world, and we have people who don't have good health care. We've got to do better. And now we're about to cut Medicaid, which is for poor people. Health care has become wealth care for many people, and we can't afford to let that happen.
Is that the only thing that you're protesting?
No, I have other things I'm protesting. And I'm also working on my articles of impeachment. This president is unfit. He should not hold the office. 34 felony convictions, 2 times impeached.
Sir, tell me one more time what you were shouting in the chamber.
That he has no mandate to cut Medicaid.
That's what you were saying over and over.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. No mandate.
So you see, my friends, right after he pulled his antics over these phantom cuts, these cuts are not happening in Medicare or Social Security. It's bogus. It's a lot of crapola. They are not happening. The president has said over and over again, we are not cutting Medicare, Medicaid. We are not cutting benefits, Social Security. Right after that, he says, I'm willing to accept whatever punishment they give me. He knows he was out of order. But then he gets on TV 2 days later, and what is it? Now it's racist. Sandra, let me ask you a question. Had you heard his reaction right after the one I just played for you? Had you heard that before?
No, I did not. I'm standing here. All that he said, he could have saved it in a nice way for the right moment to share his disdain. But to blame it on the race card, that's the part that bothers me. So what he said is his feelings, his rights, about Medicare, whatever it is. But at the right time, he said, but not about Donald Trump. I didn't like that part. But the other part about Medicaid, Medicare, all that stuff, he can save it for the right moment. But to blame it on the race card that Mike Johnson picked him to lead because of his skin color, that made me sick inside because that was not true.
Well, I got news for you. If that makes you sick inside, I got a twofer for you. Let's go to our good friend, Representative Jasmine Crockett. And for an added bonus, but wait, there's more. You also get Hank Johnson. Sandra, do you remember who Hank Johnson is?
No, I don't.
Let me refresh your memory. Hank Johnson is the congressman some years ago that was worried during this, I believe this was during the Bush 43 years, was so upset over Bush policies by not going along with this global warming business that he predicted that the island of Guam would one day tip over and capsize. The island of Guam was going to capsize and tip over because ocean levels were going to rise and people walking on Guam would tip the island over. That's Hank Johnson. Now, he and Jasmine back to back on Donald Trump. That was cut 21. And here is a twofer just for you.
And as they have decided to go after immigrants and things like that, and they've said, oh, they taking your black jobs. They taking your black jobs. Not really. They are obviously jobs that they want us to go back to, such as work in the fields, all right? Those immigrants that come into our country, they work the fields, something that we ain't done in a long time. And clearly, he is trying to make us go back to the fields.
So all of the ways in which they can kill public education, from defunding it from a federal level and then also enabling state monies and local monies to flow into the private for-profit school setup that is ongoing. It's a recipe to make education unavailable to black people. And where does that then leave us? It puts us back to when America was great and we were picking cotton and all of it. We're doing the productivity that they are putting my Latino brothers and sisters who migrate here to do that work because we are not suited intellectually to do it anymore.
What?
And but they would have us back confined to doing that kind of work. So we got to watch out for where we are headed, and it's the people that will save our democracy, that will stop this movement towards the past that Trump has us hurtling towards.
So there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, black people are not suited intellectually to work in the fields, but Latinos are. How racist is that? But Trump's going to put y'all back in cotton, picking cotton, and doing all the slave work in the fields. That's a twofer from Jasmine Crockett and Congressman Hank Johnson. Thank you, Sandra, for the call. We got to head to a break.
Till the end of time. So
do I stay?
To let me know.
Or do I go?
Should I stay or should I go?
We gotta go.
The James Golden Show. The James Golden Show. It's politics, but theater of the mind with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
James Golden, Bo Snerdley with you. It's a Saturday morning vibe. What you got here, Carlos?
This is U2. This is from their 5th studio album, The Joshua Tree. It's called I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For.
Yeah, this is one of U2's biggest albums. Their 5th studio album released back in 1987. It's amazing how much time has passed by. It's like I keep thinking this should not be from the 80s. But it is. U2, Joshua Tree. James Golden, Snerdley with you here. Let's head back to the telephones very quickly and see what lies behind the blinking lights. Dom in Minnesota, you are next. How are you?
Yeah, James, I called about Trump, but first, after today's fist fight with Lizzie, you better sign her up as your personal bodyguard every time you step out into the world, especially if you plan to speak at any International Women's Day event.
Love it.
That was awesome. You know, you can't run from yourself when you're in prison. The Democrats are trying to run from their own shadows in order to stay alive. Donald Trump has become the prison guard for the MAGA Supermax and is using a bird launcher for the intellectually dead and politically exhausted. He has made the Democrats and the world prisoners, not just physically, but also mentally and psychologically. That's a great box he has put them in.
It is amazing. And by the way, this goes to what I was saying, that Donald Trump is on 100% offense. And this is more than just, these are not random acts that are happening. They're not just one little random news story and on to the next. You have to view them as a whole. What Donald Trump is doing domestically and internationally is actually a refutation of the entire liberal world view, not just what's happening in the United States. And I tell you, there's more going on to these moves that he's making with tariffs. Put it like this, what I believe is happening is that Donald Trump is reordering the financial infrastructure of the United States to a post-liberal world. The infrastructure that we have financially, the income tax put in place Democrats, the federal income tax, the way that this country absorbs money from its citizen unquestioned, unstopped. He's trying to stop the machine, to put that machine out and make it obsolete and rely on tariffs as the underpinning of the American economy. This is deep stuff. This is going to be met with resistance because it is the very infrastructure of liberal power that Donald Trump is undertaking to change. The entire way that the American government and the American people function, our economy, this is huge, folks. What Donald Trump is doing is not random acts. They are coordinated to bring down the house of liberalism, not just here in the United States, but around the world. This reordering of our relationship with Europe, of reordering our relationship with Canada and Mexico, this will change the balance of power in the world and make us a dominant force over both China and Russia's aspirations. It's incredible what's happening here. James Golden, Snerdley. When we get back, Princess Diana is going to join us. Cannot wait. A little bit later on in the program, America's small caffeinated mom, Rhonda Schrock, will join us. Also joining us, you on the telephones at 800-848-9222. Our number duo in the can. Our number trio coming up. Whatever you do, stick around.
The James Golden Show is on the air with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Here we are, my friends, so soon. Our number trio. In our 3-hour Saturday morning affair, the Saturday Morning Vibe. But welcome if you want to be on the telephones with us. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us, 800-848-9222. Without further ado,
it's time for Radio Royalty with James Golden and America's Princess of Policy, Princess Di.
She is indeed, ladies and gentlemen, the princess, the one with the royal command of what's happening now. Her Highness, the ness of all things good in the world, our very own Princess Diana. Welcome, Your Highness. How are you?
Oh, I'm always so excited to talk to you. This has been such a marvelous week, and your shows have been so fantastic and inspiring as you have analyzed the Trump, it's not the State of the Union, but the address to the joint session of Congress and the meaning of it and the significance of it. And I have been so appreciative of your basically shining the light of truth on that. It's been inspiring.
Well, thank you. I wanted you to join me that day, of course, but you demurred and did not afterwards because I wanted to hear what you thought about it. And so I still do. You watched this. What was going through your mind as you watched the president for 100 minutes almost completely devour the Democrat Party?
I think that, your analysis is absolutely correct. He took an axe to the root and branch of not only American liberalism, but the global left. And, part of what he did, I think, got sort of attention because of the reaction of the Democrat Party. But the fact that that was deliberate, that he scripted that moment. And let me quote from the speech where he said This is my fifth such speech to Congress. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, a disease that would wipe out nations, or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history or the stoppage of crime. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it no matter what. 5 times I've been up here. It's very sad, and it shouldn't be this way. So Democrats sitting before me, for just this one night, why not join us in celebrating so many incredible wins for America, for the good of our nation? He scripted that. Now, I want to quote also from Sun Tzu, The Art of War: know yourself and know your enemy, and in 1,000 battles you will never be defeated. He knows his opponents. He knew what they would do. He deliberately put up the most inspirational stories that every American would cheer, and he knew they would not. And so we have seen, and this was delivered on March 5th this week, which was Ash Wednesday, and I do think it is telling that really what you have is the Democrat Party in ashes. And if you know the quote, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, I consider this the beginning of the end of this party, which is a wonderful thing for America. So Ash Wednesday brought the ashes of the Democrat Party to visibility, and a lot of things that are connected in that Reagan knew the moral weakness of the Soviet Union, and all he had to do is basically stand firm morally, and the party collapsed under its own immorality. And Trump is basically taking that same tactic, and he is standing up and showcasing what the Democrats are made of to the nation, and the reaction of the public to what they saw, the antics and the, childishness and the holding up of the auction paddles and, basically, yelling, shouting, and tantruming. The public was appalled at this, and they still do not realize this. I think there's been a lot of celebration on the people who control the Democrat Party's part, the far left, the activists. They want more of that. And so basically Trump understands what will cause the public to turn in large part from the Democrat Party en masse, and he deliberately showcased who they are. And so I think in addition to your analysis of how he was on offense the whole time, he also deliberately, I think, pushed and enabled the collapse of the Democrat Party in real time in public.
To buttress the point that you're making, Wall Street Journal today has an article, Democrats are busy fighting over what to fight over. Progressives want confrontation, while moderates fear that will turn off the centrist voters who can put them back in power. And so this battle is out there. James Carville is again out basically chastising his own party as he does what seems to be a regular basis. But then let me point this out to you, Princess Di. Ronald Reagan's son, Mike Reagan, who was an anti-Trumper, has now, Daily Mail, Ronald Reagan's son reveals major U-turn on Trump. I read that. I said, what's this about, this headline? He went on social media yesterday, confirmed that his dad, Ronald Reagan's position evolved on tariffs over time, and that he would have approved of Trump's decision. Yeah, my father spoke about tariffs when he was POTUS. That was 40 years ago. It's a different time with a different POTUS. And he said, for God's sakes, this is what he's telling the never-Trumpers: quit using my father to bash Trump. There is a remarkable turnaround happening. Donald Trump isn't just defeating the liberals and waging an offensive battle with them, which he at the moment is winning worldwide. He's also silencing these pretend conservatives in the Never Trump movement. I haven't heard. Did you hear any reaction from Liz Cheney or Kinzinger or all these other people that they usually trot out from the Republican side to bash Trump?
Well, they have been out there, but no one listens to them anymore. And, speaking of the Carville criticism, Fetterman also has been criticizing the quote-unquote progressives. And he said that basically their complaints on the Democrat side sound like car alarms that nobody pays attention to. And that's the same way. I mean, that's really what the Never Trump Wall Street Journal wing of the Republican Party are like. No one listens. And they may be, interviewed by the mainstream media, but no one quotes them. No, they make no dent anymore. So to me, that is a real, as you say, a real change in the political landscape, and Trump is the cause of it. And so one of the things that you can see is how his opponents underestimated him for their own demise, actually, because now he has come back in a completely different form, completely unapologetic. He knows what he's going to do, what he wants to do, and he's not even stopped. He's a steamroller over everything that they thought would stop him and did slow him down last time. And, I wanted to mention the funny event that happened apparently last month, but it was only reported in Politico this week. And this was the comeback retreat that the Democrats, the moderates, basically in Loudoun County, Virginia, they had a retreat where they plotted their party's comeback. And I just want you to listen to the things that the moderates want the Democrats to do. Here's the first. The party should embrace patriotism and traditional American imagery. They should get out of elite circles into real communities and go to tailgates, gun shows, local restaurants, and churches. And the Democrats, need to own the failures of Democrat governance in large cities. And so
whoa, stop.
Yes.
Stop.
Okay.
Wait a minute. You said these people are now saying Democrats need to own their failures in large cities.
Yes, that's a quote. Own the failures of Democratic governance in large cities.
Diana, wait, Princess Di. That's their entire party. These people don't exist outside of large cities.
Exactly. And their entire party, this is the party that booed God. This is the party that consistently leaders have said Democrats never, that the United States was never great. These are people who the leaders of their party, cannot do the things that this retreat came up with, cannot embrace patriotism, can you imagine going to gun shows, the Democrat Party going to gun shows and churches? Well, they do go to some churches when it's campaign time, but as far as actually getting out of elite circles, which is the quote here, and talking to real people and connecting to understand how actual voters think, they cannot do this. And here's an example that happened actually this week. Did you hear the quote from Virginia Senator Mark Warner about Trump on immigration?
No.
He praised Trump on Tuesday. He said that President Trump had made great progress on the border and that we should praise him for that. Now, he went on to criticize other things, but he did say that. The next day, he walked back his praise. He said to MSNBC, my words yesterday, they were not great, and I don't agree with Trump on unfettered immigration raids. So every time there is a move by an actual Democrat, elected Democrat, to pull away from the things that caused their loss in the election, that everyone knows it was a border security economy primarily. And so whenever a Democrat politician just steps a toe over that line, immediately the mob is unleashed. And that is what happened with Senator Warner. He said this mild thing that, which is obvious, that Trump should be praised and has done a great job at the border. And he immediately then had to apologize for saying that. And the similar thing happened, I know you mentioned it, with the Gavin Newsom interview with Charlie Kirk, in which he basically said it was greatly unfair for male athletes to participate in women's sports. And of course, the mob is now out on him. There has been a huge blowback, huge backlash. And, you know, the activists are saying things like, we woke up profoundly sickened and frustrated by his remarks. They're disappointed and angered. These are harmful comments. The Nation had a headline, don't listen to greasy Gavin Newsom. So every time that there is a Democrat who steps outside the allowed speech, and I predict that Gavin is going to walk those remarks back because it can't be allowed. So they are trapped by their activists, and they cannot move forward. It's live by the left and die by the left, and now we are seeing the ashes of that they have brought to themselves.
Wow. I tell you what, we got a quick talk about walking away. The Four Tops, ladies and gentlemen. On this day, 1963, they signed up with Motown Records. You know what they got? $400, $100 a piece to sign a record deal. Became one of the most successful groups in Motown history, the Four Tops. Walk Away, Renee. This was a cover. This was not the original, but they did well with this one. James Golden, Snerdley. Princess Di is with us. Do not, whatever you do, switch that down. Stay right here with us.
James Golden Show. The James Golden Show. It's politics, but theater of the mind with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Roy Ayers, we played a little bit of this yesterday. Everybody loves the sunshine. Roy Ayers passed away this week, jazz soul legend, and he was. Everybody Loves the Sunshine, minor hit, didn't do all that great. Did well on the album for him in 1976. It has since been sampled by so many great artists that has become an iconic hit. The LA Times did a long article on Roy Ayers, and they said this has become a Southern California anthem now. Roy Ayers spent a lot of time in New York. I think he passed away in New York. He did. Band leader, plays the vibes. Also worked with a good friend of mine who has passed away a few years back, Edwin Birdsong, who was one of the most not known but great musicians that formed so much music coming out of the New York scene. And Edwin and Roy worked a lot together. Princess Di is with us. And Princess Di, this has just been an incredible thing to watch. You mentioned Gavin Newsom and walking it back. I had tweeted out or X'd out, whatever you call it, now posted, that I was waiting for Gavin to walk it back. And on further reflection, Princess Di, I don't think he's going to walk it back. I think Gavin Newsom, and I'll tell you why. I think we're watching the transformation of Newsom into what he thinks will be a winning presidential candidate, which means he's going to put distance between himself and himself. He's trying to put distance between what we know Gavin Newsom is, the reality, and what he wants people to think he is. So what is he doing? He's got a podcast. Who was the first interview? Charlie Kirk? That he went out after he announced the podcast. Then all of a sudden he's being interviewed by Charlie Kirk, not on his podcast, and then he makes this stark admission that, this transgender business with sports. Pretty much he's saying, Trump is right about this. This is highly unfair. And yeah, they're all screeching and yelling, and he's not saying he could have already walked it back. I bet, I'm thinking now, Princess Diana, that Newsom is going to try to reposition himself as a centrist and not this crazed Democrat, liberal, progressive that we know he is. What do you think?
You think it was a sister soldier moment?
Yep.
I do not. I think, he has to win first the Democrat primary. It is impossible, as we saw with Warner, and if you've seen a million other instances, for any Democrat to win the Democrat primary without being a creature of the left. And I do not think he can walk it back.
Well, we shall have to see.
Well,
a disagreement?
Great for America. The collapse of the Democrat Party is wonderful for America.
I agree with that. Diana, I'm going to take that one and say the collapse of liberalism and socialism around the world is beginning. We may not live to see it in total ruins, but it is on the way thanks to Donald Trump.
Amen.
Thank you, Princess Di, as always.
Thank you, Sir James.
James Golden, Snerdley, your calls are coming up, and then later on in the program, America's Small Caffeinated Mom, Rhonda Schrock, will join us. So whatever you do, keep it right here and do not go away.
The James Golden Show. It's politics, but theater of the mind with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Tomorrow's the anniversary of this song being recorded. The Beach Boys, 1966, on March 9th. They went in the studio and recorded this. It was released in May of that year. God only knows. The Beach Boys. Let's head back to the telephones, shall we? Lauren in New Jersey, you are next. How are you, Lauren?
Well, I'm great. You and your show today have hit it out of the park, James.
Well, thank you.
Okay. So listen, at the risk of sending Lizzie over the edge, I'd like to recommend that she watch the classic Ira Levin's 1972 movie, The Stepford Wives.
Guess who's here? Lizzie's with us. Lizzie, what do you think about that idea, Lizzie?
Well, I've actually seen that movie. I have seen. I'm a bit of a movie buff. I've seen that movie, and yeah, I mean, it does. I think speak to my my concerns that a lot of these women are kind of empty, and they bide their time, and and in the end, they're all like robots. They're completely replaced.
It's a horror film. So, but I loved your comment that you'd like to have the time machine and go back.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, in reality, I mean, the idea of the Stepford Wives, it all looked good from the outside, but the reality is these women are complex. They have actual, lived worlds within them. To limit them to the home, I mean, it's kind of...
Yeah, well, his presentation was a bit extreme, but, the idea and the family unit is so important for the children, and a good relationship, and where you share responsibilities, and you both develop your interests, and it's also important. And we've seen, since there's so much of the women being out in the working field, the children do suffer. So there is a lot of justification for really, having the family unit as it most benefits the children and the whole family. But there are extremes, and I know I'm not communicating this as well as I'd like to.
Oh, but you are communicating just fine, darling. Don't you think you're not? Because what you just said is important about the children, the family unit, and see, that's the thing. And this is, if you look at one thing that defined the relationship that parents had with their children when I grew up, the parents sacrificed themselves so that their children would have a better future. That was kind of a common understanding of what parents' role was to make sure that this family unit prospered and that these children were prepared to go in the world. And parents would make all kind of sacrifices and also try to teach that too. They would teach that everything is an instant gratification, that you have to put off gratification and plan and so that you can have a better future. Those are the kind of lessons that were just, I think, part of the common structure of family units back then.
Yes. And what happened was the turning of wanting more. The new wash, everything was, new, and the women were like, well, we have to have more money to, and the husbands were, and the wives, we're going to need more money to get these things. But, it was really a lot of it to the detriment of the children, because it started a breakdown, and people got overly interested in the materialistic aspects of everything, and it could have been a much more balanced and appropriate and wonderful experience, but it went over the edge. And so materialism became more important than the family and the children and a solid, wonderful, loving, and supportive unit.
Lauren, you have said a lot, and I appreciate the call so much. Thank you. We got a lot of people who want to talk with Lizzie, so that's why we asked Lizzie to come back in. Douglas in New York wants to comment on mothers, and it says he wants to comment on the topic that was brought up with Lizzie. Douglas, how are you? Welcome. Lizzie's here with us. Good. What is it that you want to say?
Hi, can you hear me, Mr. Golden?
We hear you just fine, Douglas.
Hi, thanks. Actually, I've been listening to you and Rush since the late 80s, and this is the first time I've called, so I'm a long-time listener. So just a comment about Ms. Liz Ridavali about the stay-at-home mom. I really believe that raising your own children is a very noble job. And, your children are your legacy. So your effect in this world is far-reaching when you raise your children well. And, there have been multiple studies that shows that children that were raised in their first few years of life by their own mother has a much better outcome in all aspects in life, being financial, being relationship. And so, yes, it's not well paid, or it's not paid at all, but I think knocking it down, I think it's really have to reevaluate this. And by the way, who raised Miss Ridavali? Was she raised by nannies in the first few years of life, or was she raised by?
I was.
What?
I actually was. My mother was a working woman, and she actually worked at WABC radio way back in the day when I was first born, and she worked. She brought me to the station sometimes. I mean, when my sitters weren't around. But yeah, I had a nanny who watched me. I didn't, and absolutely. Parents should be able to raise their own children. That is important. But how we get that is, paid family leave and helping people, provide for their families. That's how you get there. That's how you actually get there. We're not going to become magically some virtuous society after all these years of materialism has corrupted us. We're not just going to flip a switch and magically turn back to that. It has to be incentivized. You have to incentivize people to stay at home with their kids. You have to give people that safety net that they're going to be able to pay their bills if they want to take care of their children.
I agree with you. I think one of the main problems with that is that the wages today versus cost of living has separated us so far from maybe my parents' days or even my grandparents' days. In those days, one parent can work and that's more than enough to support the family and live comfortably. Nowadays, I've seen so many of my colleagues or even younger with two-income families, they can barely survive, and I think there's something seriously wrong with this. And I mean, I think in some ways that led to mandatory dual-income workers. But that's just my opinion.
Well, that's profound, and I wish I had time to talk about that because there is a thought that the reason two incomes are now required is not as a result of so many women in the marketplace, is because of it. But that theory takes a little bit to explain. Basically, the long and short of it is, if there's a smaller labor pool, wages go up. And with the emergence of so many people now, I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying the theory is out here. So I just want to do that. We got some other calls I want to get to before we have to go. Rick in New Jersey. Rick, you're up next.
James, I hate to do this because I've been agreeing with you for 2 years, but I noticed just a little bit of hypocrisy with my phone call last week where I made a joke about we had two celebrities that passed away, and somebody should remind Jane Fonda.
Okay, and I told you then I didn't appreciate it, and I'm going to tell you now. For you to even bring it up now is, to me, disrespectful. So thank you for the call, and goodbye. I'm not doing that kind of joke on this show. I'm not joking about dead celebrities or anything else. It's not what I do, and it's not what I tolerate. I don't think it's in good taste. I think it's in horrible taste, and I don't wish death on anybody, and I don't even joke about that. And I'm sorry that you find that objectionable and you want to persist anyway. So do us a favor, talk about something else, but not that, because I'm not going to tolerate it. Thank you. Let's Tim in Long Island. You're up next.
Hello?
Hi, Tim. Yes, Tim, you're up next, and
Bo.
time is a-fleeting.
Oh,
We're having a problem with that
Thank you.
phone line. Let's move on to Pamela in New Jersey because time is tight. Hi, Pamela, you're up next.
Hi, not to send Lizzie over the edge, but I was raised in a 50s, 60s, 70s household. I was the youngest, 3 children. My father actually asked my mother if she could stop working. He wanted a stay-at-home mom, and he worked like 6 days a week as long as I could remember into the 70s. And it wasn't so easy doing it, but that's the way they both liked it. My mother had a lot of responsibilities with the children, cooking, cleaning, and she did the budgeting and the bank work and everything. And my father was a jack of all trades, repairing things. And it was a given rule in our house that they gave and they received. Funny story. We had 7 pork chops. My great aunt was over for dinner. And the rule was, if there's an extra pork chop, Daddy gets it. He works real hard out of the house. He gets it. And he wasn't like a big eater or anything. So, it wasn't like he was eating all the food or anything. So my aunt was there one day, and she just grabbed the last pork chop off the plate, and it was like suspense music. We all stared at her, and she said, like, what? And we were, like, trying to be polite and everything. And my mother just had to say, well, the rule is, Dad gets it. And my mother would get up from the table and get him another glass of milk or whatever he wanted. And my father was giving. My father was very giving to my mother. And I grew up with this, and a good relationship is whatever works out for you. And it doesn't mean that mother has to go out of the house to find herself. Now, I grew up, and they encouraged me. They could see that I was headed for college, and I worked over 20 years as a teacher, married, divorced, married again. And, and another thing, and I love cats, Lizzie.
Lizzie, we only have. I'm gonna have to cut it there because we only have a few moments, and I want Lizzie to respond before we have to go. Lizzie,
well, good for your mom that she found happiness, and good for you that you were able to educate the next generation. Nothing against cats. I just don't think that I don't think that this idea that you have to be a stay-at-home mom or suffer. I think that's wrong. That's not the dichotomy that modern women are stuck in.
Lizzie, you're going to have to join us again. We're going to have to continue to talk about this. I cannot tell you, Lizzie, thank you, by the way. And just so everybody understands, nobody will abuse Lizzie, by the way, when she's not here. No, Lizzie, because sometimes I get these people who want to call and just, no, we don't rag Lizzie. Lizzie, you bring something to us, which is a view that we don't have, some of us.
Got to keep it balanced.
And I love hearing from you. And thank you for coming back and talking with some of our callers today, Lizzie. And you're going to have to do it again, okay?
Happy to do it. Thank you, Bo.
Thanks, Lizzie. Oh, Lizzie. Lizzie? Lizzie?
Yep.
This one's for you, by the way. It's Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. And I just want you to pay attention to this part right here.
She was the breadwinner. She was the breadwinner. I just want to add, Aretha Franklin was the breadwinner for her family.
Thank you for that, Lizzie. All right, coming back with America's Small Caffeinated Mom. I tell you, Lizzie has the answers.
The James Golden Show. The James Golden Show. It's politics, but theater of the mind with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
You can find her at rhondaschrock.com. Today's essay at thedailybs.com. I say that in advance because it's time for America's Small Caffeinated Mom, Rhonda Schrock. And we're running a little short on time, so we want to hear every single word we can from America's Small Caffeinated Mom, Rhonda Schrock. How are you, Rhonda?
Good morning, James. I'm doing great, especially after the wonderful speech that we heard on Tuesday night. And today's essay comes from something bold and wonderful and truthful that our president said to our children. I want Congress to pass a bill permanently banning and criminalizing sex changes on children and forever ending the lie that any child is trapped in the wrong body. This is a big lie, and our message to every child in America is that you are perfect exactly the way God made you. It is the lies we believe that hurt us. The number of people who have fallen to this particular delusion, and that is exactly what it is shocking. Convincing our kids that they can change their own biology at the molecular level and that doing so will ease their pain is wicked and it's horrifying. It is actually, James, and I think I've told you this before, it's a giant middle finger in the face of the Almighty. And all who have fallen to this delusion should be trembling. I was thinking about what you said the other day and what I know to be true, that we are made in the image of God. He created us with so much intention. Red hair, freckles, blue eyes, brown eyes. He's just the greatest artist, and he's the source of all creativity, and we are living, walking, breathing proof of that. These bodies that you and I live in, they are a gift. They are a gift to us, and they're our vehicle that carries us around in this world. I was just marveling as I wrote this essay, just thinking about the wonder and the miracle of the human body. With our five senses, we experience the world. That's how we learn about the world and how we enjoy the world. We can see, hear, taste, smell, feel. And all of it tells us that we are alive and that it's good. It's good to be alive. We can feel hot and cold. We feel pleasure and pain. The touch of a cool breeze on a hot day, just the taste of fresh lemonade in your mouth. For me, it's the cardinals that we have around here in the spring. When they sing, I feel happy. And when they fly across the road in front of me, it is my dash of bright red happiness. And I know there's a God, and I know I'm alive, and it just makes me happy. And I'm using my eyes, my ears, my nose, all of it to engage in this world. With our bodies, we engage and interact with other human beings, and that's one of the greatest parts of being alive is relationships and connections with other human beings. We can look into each other's eyes. That's why in-person conversations are so important. We hear a loved one's voice with our ears, and all of it says something to us, and we go back and forth in that lovely interaction that connects two souls. We hug each other, we kiss each other, and in deeply romantic and loving relationships, we enjoy the pleasure of our sexuality. All of that is given to us by God, and our bodies are designed for all of it. It's just wonderful. We sit around tables, we eat together, we have conversations with people that we love around food, and it's part of the delight and pleasure of being alive in these bodies that we have been given. Our bodies can heal themselves. Rocks and trees and things that are not alive, they can't heal themselves. But the minute you sustain an injury or a virus invades, my husband was really sick this week with a virus, our bodies immediately rush to healing. How does that happen? That is without any smarts or intellect or any skill on our part. It is what our bodies are designed to do, and it's marvelous. We fall asleep at night, and while we're unconscious, we're breathing. We're pulling oxygen into our lungs. Our beautiful, brilliant hearts are beating thump, 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 and we wake up and we put our feet on the floor, and we get up, and in these wonderful houses that we have, we move about through the world. And if we are living tuned in, we are in the world fulfilling our individual and unique purposes. And what an amazing thing it is to know when you are fulfilling your purpose in this world. We're not just put here to take up space and air. When our boys were little and they were in elementary school, they would have art class and they would make little clay pots, little ceramic figures, animals, little things you couldn't even recognize, and with their clumsy little fingers, and they would bring them to their dad and I, and those little blue eyes looking up at us, handing us their gifts. If we had taken those precious little creations of theirs and dashed them on the floor and shouted invectives and shamed them for how imperfectly they were made or designed, it would have hurt them beyond what I can articulate. That is how God feels when we complain about our bodies, when we hate our bodies, and when we mistreat them, when we do not accept them for the gifts that they actually are. If we are saying things to or about ourselves that we would never say to or about someone else, then something is out of line, and we need to come back to the truth. These bodies are a gift. We need to embrace them and give thanks.
Amen to that, Rhonda. As always, the inspiration, Rhonda Schrock. You can find the essay at the Daily BS, as I said before. That's it for today, folks. May God bless, protect. Thank you so much, Rhonda. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude for your being here today. Hope to see you next week. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye.